Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hola. Hola, hola. Welcome everyone to Beyond the Screen. Let's get real. For real, for real.
For real.
For real, for real. Today we have a special guest, Arleene Correa Valencia, perdón, who's going to be joining us. And it looks like she is on now. Let me go ahead and bring her on. Nope, just kidding.
Oh, there she
There
goes.
she is.
Hi.
Hola.
Hi,
Hi.
Arlene. How are you?
So happy to see you both and
So
your
happy to see you.
faces.
I
Oh,
know. I
love
know.
you.
Aw, the love is mutual. And
I don't know. I don't know why I feel nervous. I feel
really?
You don't
like,
feel nervous?
yeah, it's so weird. I was like, oh, what are they gonna ask? Well, I already know what you're asking, but I feel nervous. It's so weird.
No. It's funny because every time that we do one of these with an artist, I mean, we know most of the artists because we have like, we support each other.
Right.
So but for whatever reason, the artists usually are like, I feel so nervous.
Well, and you know me, I'm like so open and, funky, I think. I don't know. So no sé, I don't know why I'm nervous, but
No,
I'm a
but,
little nervous. So for
but
everyone watching, please don't make fun of me.
no, the beautiful thing about, I mean, maybe I'm projecting because I feel like this is the space that we try to create, but I always feel like we try and create like a growing, learning, supportive space. So hopefully, our followers and our supporters reflect that. And if you don't, bye. I'm just kidding.
Felicia. No, I agree. I think, everyone from your page that has engaged with me has always been so loving and kind. And everyone we've met in the galleries and in person have just been incredible. And I mean, of course, because it's you two, and who would follow you that has bad energy in their hearts?
Oh,
Nobody. So,
thank
yes.
you.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for having me, because
Yes,
I think this
absolutely.
is like long overdue. And I'm happy
Yes, we
to be
agree.
here. Yeah.
Yay! So, for those of you who don't know Arlene, please, please, please give her a follow. We'll post all of her info as well. But, babe, while I post Arlene's handle, do you want to share with the community, for those who don't already know Arlene, share her bio?
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to have to read this. So, bear with me. A little bit about Arlene. Arlene Correa Valencia, born in 1993, is a Mexican painter and community-oriented artist. After spending the first 3 years of life in her native Mexico, she migrated to the United States and currently lives and works in Napa, California. She is a recipient of Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals and has both a bachelor's and a master's degree from California College of the Arts in San Francisco. And so, oh, got it.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry. I was like, I'm gonna post Arlene's handle, and Arlene, I couldn't remember how many E's.
Four. It's four E's. It's four. Four E's.
N-I-E-E-E.
Great.
I should change it. Make it easier. Although it's
No, it's okay. I should have known that. No, but again, thank you so much, Arlene, for being here with us today. And we'll be posting Arlene's work for the rest of the week as well, so you'll get familiar with Arlene's work. And we posted Arlene's work in the past too.
Yes.
So Arlene, to kick off kind of our question, the question that we like to start with all of the artists that we have conversations with is, what relationship do you have to the label artist, and when did you start that relationship? Just because, we all kind of, I guess, have a different relationship to that label, and when we started identifying as artists. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because I hate that label. I hate the term
That's,
artist. And then recently, it's like everyone's an artist, right? Like everyone wants to be an artist. Whereas, like, I feel like maybe 100, 200 years ago, it meant something. And I actually do believe that everyone's an artist and anyone can be an artist. And so by having like blue chip artists and this hierarchy in art, we sort of become elitist in a way, right? So I hate that aspect of it, and I don't identify with that. And I encourage everyone to find their inner artist, because I think we all have that. Um, I think because, and I talk about this a lot in my work, and you both know, because my father does or did have a huge interest in art, and growing up, that was what I was surrounded by. My definition of artist was always that it was my dad, who didn't have an education but was extremely talented and has just like an eye for things that is totally natural. So artists never had that hierarchy that I'm talking about, because it wasn't like he had a master's like I do. I think he's a better artist than I am, and I have education, which is again problematic. So yeah, I hate the term, but I always felt like an artist because my dad always made me feel a part of an art conversation. And I think now that I have, that fancy bio you just read or whatever, then it's like, yeah, I'm an artist, right? Like technically by society standard, I'm an artist. But and one thing I want to talk about later is like what it means to be an artist, right? Or like maybe I could talk about it now, but like when I introduce myself to people and they're like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, I'm an artist, and they're like, oh, what does it mean to be an artist? Like, are you a real artist, right? And I wish I could share the details of this story, but it happened recently in town in Napa, at a grocery store that I'm sure we all shop at. So I'm gonna leave names out. But I was checking out, right? And I was like getting my groceries to make dinner. And so the guy or the person at the because for all of you watching, Napa's so small that we know everybody.
Everyone. And for context, Arlene and I both grew up in Napa. So
yeah. So anyway, the person at the register is like, how's your day going? I'm like, great, how are you? He's like, great, just getting through work. I was like, oh, I have to get back home and jump on some work. And he's like, oh, what do you do for work? And so I said, I'm an artist. And he was like, oh, they were like, you're an artist? And then he's like, what makes you a real artist? And I was just like, whoa, okay, well, whatever. He was male and white. And I was like, no, you're not coming at me like this, right? I was like, I've worked too damn hard in my life for you to have this attitude towards me. So I just said, well, does having an Emmy make me a real artist? I was snappy. And he was like, you have an Emmy? What do you have an Emmy for? And I just was like, I just lost it. I was like, why can't I just say I'm an artist and you believe me, right? Why is it because I'm a woman, because I'm brown, because your idea of an artist is so skewed that you can't picture that I make a living this way, right? So that was really triggering. And I said to him, give me a pen and a receipt. And I wrote down my website, and I said, take your time tonight and do some research. And so I left. That was it. And I just gave him my information. I came back a few days later. And we're all wearing masks, so that I don't even know how he recognized me, but he was at the front
tattoos
door.
Girl.
Oh, never mind. I got the tattoos. Okay, tattoos, right? So this person is standing at the front door letting people in, because it's one of those places. And he says, hey, Arlene. And I turn and I'm like, hi. And he's like, I'm the guy you were talking to at the register. And he goes, oh, I'm such a huge fan. You're an incredible artist. And I was like, oh, are you serious? You just said I wasn't a real artist. He's like, I can't believe I got to talk to you. I can't believe I get to meet you. Like, I love your work. I'm a huge fan. And I was like, oh no, boy, do not come at me this way. You can't offend me in my career without knowing me, and then come and then run into me again, and suddenly you're my number one fan. So I feel like it's just so problematic. This is the longest answer, but it's so problematic.
Right. But I think, one of the things that comes up for me is that you talked about in the beginning about like this tension with the label artist, right? And because of the hierarchy that's associated with the label. And I think in previous conversations that we've had with other artists, that's come up as well, in terms of like, you have the starving artist or you have the celebrity artist, and then there's nothing in between.
Right.
And then that's that hierarchy, right? You've either made it and you're at celebrity artist status, or you're starving. And we're not talking about like all of the folks who are able to pay bills, or maybe are not able to pay bills, but who have a practice. And I think that because there's this binary with the term that folks don't get to like believe it when folks say, I'm an artist, because
Right.
you're either that celebrity artist or you're the starving artist and you can't afford to pay your groceries. Which is it, right?
I'm a celebrity. I'm just kidding. I don't know. No, I'm not. I'm not. But it's not even that I want to achieve that, you know. I think the ultimate goal now more than ever is to just have community engagement over, you know, our objects. That's what my work has been focusing on, and if that means having something that is an object that is considered art, then that's great. But it's not the ultimate goal. And the celebrity status, this blue chip thing, is not also the goal. You know, it never has been. And like a lot of people have said to me in the past, you know, like, I hope you don't get jaded. And I'm like, you don't know me if you think I would ever get jaded, because my roots are so strong and my foundation of what art and love and family and community mean to me are so strong that I could never fall out of that, or at least I hope I couldn't. So yeah, but a very good question to keep asking ourselves, right? To keep repeating this in our own minds as artists, because I think that is where we can let go of our roots and get so caught up in our head and the fame and the shows and the traveling that then we're like, how did we get here, right?
Right. And I think that academia has a big role to play in that. And, you know, and I think that, like you said, anyone can be an artist and you don't have to have that formal education in order to create great work, right? Like the academic sector will help you open doors and will help you in terms of like another dog, the foundation.
Sorry.
So there's some really great things about the academic sector of the arts, but then there's also really community sector of the arts as well, and everything in between. So I think that that's important.
So moving on to something that's related to this, can you talk to us a little bit about your subject matter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I you know, it was funny. I was thinking about when the first time I made art about being an immigrant or undocumented or whatever it was. And it was at 3 years old when I was writing letters to my father because we were separated. And I consider that to be my first artwork, right? And then growing up and training with my father, like learning how to draw and paint and all of that, I was always really interested in pain as like a subject matter, right? A suffering as something that could be represented visually. And I think because of how lucky I've been to be around other artists and academia, I've learned to create a visual language for myself. And so even today, I always just connect with whatever feels like home. And so if that's a, you know, brown man walking down the street in like dirty clothes, that feels like home because it's reflective of my dad and my uncles and my brothers. And you know, there's some biases there because of course I'm using my life experience and I'm talking about what is important to me. And so a lot of the times I get the question, you know, like, why is there mostly male figures in your work and not as many female figures? And that gets complicated because it is a reflection of my relationship to females and males in my life. But I think that as artists, we have the agency to choose what we want to depict, right? And who we want to depict. And I've been trying to be more conscious about it and really balancing things out because I'm a woman and it's ridiculous to not want to self-represent. And I do believe in that and in representation of the female form. And so, yeah, there's a push towards that, but it's always just like observing what feels like home and like love and within my community or within my life and trying to replicate that in some sort of art form.
It's awesome. Do you find that you also that also kind of informs the medium and materials that you use? This concept of home, because I noticed, or it's very clear that you don't just use paint, right? In your art. Do you also find that your concept of home is what informs your materials as well?
Yeah, I definitely do, and I think even more recently with the work that I've been making, it definitely does. You know, we're in my series of 2017 paintings that I exhibited with you all. I was creating home and through darkness, and you know layering color to create darkness to obscure visibility, and that is reflective of how I don't feel like home is one thing, or home is this brightly colored space, right? And right now with the work that I'm making, these like larger tapestry paintings that are made up of repurposed fabric and made on the sewing machine, with those it's a lack of space, right? And it's a lack of recognizable in a recognizable environment. And so again, it's a translation of this void that I feel, this disconnect of being, not being entirely grounded, and also just feeling like I'm floating in this space, in this limbo, and wanting to find visibility within that. So it definitely does influence my material choices. I don't think I'm always very conscious of it. I think I come to the realization later on, but it does happen intuitively and very beautifully. It's kind of one of those like perfect mistakes, right? Like the work that I'm making right now will be in 3 different solo shows this year, and I feel really proud of it because it happened so organically, and I never forced any of the layers of visibility onto the work, but it's so reflective of how I feel and how I hope that my community also feels. So it's just really beautiful to let yourself follow your natural tendencies without question, because we figure out what the meaning is later, and it feels good.
That's awesome. And it's reflective in the literal sense too, because it's, you
Yeah,
have it, right?
yeah, it's literally reflective. Which is like, I didn't even think of that, right? Like you just said that, and I'm like, wow, that's so true. It's literally reflective, and I'm forcing you to look at things from either like this series specifically with the tapestries. It's to be seen in 3 different ways, right? In natural light, which is what we all experience with our eyes, hopefully, if we have visibility in our eyes. In the darkness, which I think darkness is such a like powerful tool not instill fear but also comfort. It's a really weird balance, right? And then with flash, and flash is for me, flash is important because it talks about the technologies at hand, especially when we're talking about the technologies that are used in the borders to detect movement and light and temperature. So it kind of, as a viewer, I'm giving you the power to find bodies within my work, and that really then questions your position, right, and where you're at and privilege. And so it could be a longer conversation, but yeah, reflectiveness and visibility are huge.
Oh, wow, that's really powerful. I mean, I had seen, and we've had conversations about this series that you're currently working on, but even just your explanation now just gives me a deeper sense of the work, and that's really powerful. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Do you find also that, I mean, I noticed just from your social media stories that often you're like at the sewing machine, like the sewing machine has been your best friend kind of over the course of pandemic. Was that something that happened because of pandemic, that you decided, okay, the sewing machine is going to be kind of like my home in terms of my art because of staying at home, limited space, or did that series start pre-pandemic?
Yeah, so that was actually because of the pandemic. And again, it happened so organically that I like can't even question it, right? Like I think I was so caught up for so long at being like, I'm an oil painter and I want to master this. But then the pandemic came and I was finishing grad school, and they closed our studios. So we had space but couldn't use it. And so I literally had no access to my oil paint and brushes. And it's not like you can just go down to the store and buy $1,000 worth of oil paint when you have it sitting in the studio. So that happened, and I was frustrated. And then I had to clean up my studio and move it out and figure out the next studio space, which I think as an artist, we're just constantly moving through spaces, and there's no permanency in studios. So I was trying to talk myself into some sort of flexibility there. And in the studios there's like this recycle pile, right? And I went to leave some stuff, because you can leave materials and you can take materials. So I went to go leave some stuff, and I noticed that there was this giant like piece of black canvas that was untouched. And then there was like bits and pieces of leather that were beautiful, and I thought, okay, well, I should take that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with black canvas and leather. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take it and something will come of it, right? So then I took it home, and it was just trash, and it sat in my new studio for a little while. And then when I really realized there was no way I was going to paint, which for me, I've lived in like 500 square foot apartments and I've always painted. I've always made it work. But this time I really couldn't make it work. So I started investigating and really looking at the napkins that we use for tortillas and embroidery. And I was like, this is so cool. Like I can embroider shirts. And I was just more thinking about projects that would keep me busy to like look cool. Because we always want to have cool clothes. But then I realized that there was actually a powerful history in terms of being a woman of color and carrying on these traditions of embroidery and sewing, and then having these conversations of labor and what it means to, you know, be in fashion and to produce just material goods that are then, you know, sold for a price that doesn't account for the amount of labor and time that go into these, you know, garments. And so I thought it would be so beautiful to learn how to sew or how to make things. And I started working with people around me and just learning from their techniques and their histories and what embroidery and sewing meant to them. And I learned a lot, you know, it's like learning from your abuelas, and it was just so powerful. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. Like, why, this is what I wish I would have been doing more of, is investigating my own cultural practices that could be made into art, you know, and again, that like art, higher art or whatever. So after that, I was like, okay, well, I'm working with these figures. I've got these high vis colors. How do these come together, right? And in this series, then I've been working with the idea of children for a long, since my niece was born. And I wanted to work with the theme of children and children at the border and parents for a long time, but I never felt that I was emotionally ready for it until my niece was born, because I had a true understanding of what it's like to hold a child. Yeah. And so just, you know, to share with everyone, which is super personal. I feel like I'm always getting really vulnerable and personal, but it's part of the work, right? I
Right.
can't have children. And so having my niece is the closest that I'll ever be to holding a child that I will love as if it was my own, right? And so the moment that I held her, I just knew that I was ready for this work to begin. And I felt like I had the tools to be able to talk about my own experience as a child who was brought to this country. And I felt like she gave me that. She gifted me that. And she still doesn't know. You know, she's this little 1.5-year-old who's so spicy. And all the work is about her. And she doesn't know the gift that she's given me, and being able to talk about this. So again, all of this happened just so organically that there's no way of saying, you know, I set out to make these paintings with the sewing machine. It just, pieces of the puzzle came together, and I think this is my best work. I think this is what I'm most proud of, you know, because it's real. I've shared it with a lot of people in studio visits, and I never feel like I'm lying. I always feel like, you know, sometimes you have to talk ourselves up and make
Right.
things, you know, embellish them a little bit. But with this series, this is my family. All of the images that I'm using as references as my dad, my sisters, my brother, and their kids. And so I can't lie to you about the emotions that I feel when this work is completed, because this is my family, and it's my community. And it just feels like the truest part of me. And it makes me even cry because I just love it so much.
That's amazing. So a couple of things, Arlene. First of all, thank you so much for sharing some of like that really intimate, personal, you know, your story about your inability to have kids. And, you know, thank you for sharing that, and for being open. And I think Xiomara mentioned that cultural work is undervalued, and yes, absolutely. And, you know, I would think
Mhm.
that's sort of alive. But one thing that I'm kind of reflecting on is that, you know, at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned how one of the struggles that you have is how women are not as present in terms of figures in your work. But just hearing you talk, like, women are absolutely present in your
Oh
work,
yeah.
right? Like the teachings of abuelas, the learning of sewing, the histories, like women are absolutely present in your work. And I just wanted to like share that's clearly, in having conversation with you, like women are front and center and powerful and a deep portion of your work. So thank you for letting us into that world.
Thank you. Well,
Gonna say too, like the oil paintings that you showed with us was very specific to a time that happened in during the fires in Napa,
mhm.
and there was a connection to place and to those people and those images. And I feel that this work is so powerful because it isn't about a specific individual, that it could be anyone, right? And so the viewer gets to actually superimpose whoever they want in those images. It could be your dad, it could be your mom, it could be your niece, it could be anyone. But I think the most powerful component of it is like you said, all these pieces came together and they're made out of many materials. And the way that you process these materials and the way that you put them together is a form of mending, right? And through the process of actually putting these images together comes this powerful work that you conceive in at night, right? And so that there's so much power in the ability to see images even when there is no light.
Right.
Because I feel like painting is very much about being able to see it with light.
With
But
light.
you're just in darkness, right? And so I feel like there's something about that as well that this work really stands out to me. And I don't know, I'm very happy to actually see like you just exploring like what these images mean and how to represent them, because I feel also there's like a barrier that artists come across a lot of times when you don't know where to go next with your images or with those memories. And I feel that through the process of exploring, which is what you're doing right now, it's like you come up with this beautiful just composition of what you're going through, right? And even without you telling us what you told us about your personal life, like there is a lot about missing faces, but about connecting things together, right? Which is the main thing, how
Right.
put these pieces together. So yeah.
Yeah, well, and I talk a lot about the separation that occurs when the light is removed. So the children come forward and the parents are left behind, which to
Mm,
me is also very reminiscent of what it means to be DACA, right? Like we came forward, we are what is at the front lines. If anyone's given a chance, it's going to be us. And so we leave behind our parents. And they sort of exist in this hope, right? That so hopefully they will also be visible at one point in time. But it realistically, it probably is never going to happen. Their visibility probably won't ever be the same as ours. But there's always a connection. So when I make these portraits, I make sure that the parents' hands are always are always visible within the darkness. So you'll see this like child, and then it'll have like a hand cut in to his stomach or wherever the parent is holding. So there's a signifier that somebody is there, that somebody is present, right? And keeping those connections like visible even in the darkness is really important to me, because it shows that we have not let go, right? That we're still holding on to that hope, that there's still a chance that things could change. And I think nowadays it's a little hard to have hope and to believe that things will actually change, but if we don't have that, we have nothing. So
definitely.
and also going back to that comment about like women not being present in the work, it's funny because I always thought, well, if I'm a woman and I'm making these paintings, aren't I present because I created them? Right? So even if they're male figures, they're in relationship to me, and I am present because that's my name on the wall. You know, it's not somebody else's name, that's me.
Right.
So one thing I had to say, because it is really annoying to get those comments, but other than that, it's not too bad.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. And then also for folks who are watching the live, if anyone has questions for Arlene, feel free to type those in. We just have a couple other questions, so we'll take note and you feel free to ask Arlene questions as well. But Arlene, what would you say that you'd like to share either about you as an artist or your work that may not be immediately clear from either your social media or from your work itself?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's interesting. I don't share a lot about my personal life, like my status as a person. I don't even know. No, I don't share. I share a lot, and I think I'm very vulnerable. In my website, I talk about my experience with breast cancer, BRCA1, and I talk a lot about like my surgeries and my tattoos, which is people are like, you're always sharing so much, and I think I am, but I'm also really private. You know, people are always like, who are you dating? Are you married? Are you single? What do you do? And I'm like, no, 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 there's boundaries, right? And I think that as artists, we have to set those boundaries. And so, I think I don't really know how to answer that question because I do share so much, but I also don't. And people that know me in real life know what is happening behind closed doors. But that's it. And I think for me, it's important to hold on to that. And so for anyone who is curious about me beyond the artwork, I like having that privacy because it allows me to feel like a normal human being without having to overshare everything. Because in making all of this work, I am, you know, exposing my family, exposing legal matters, I'm exposing so many things that I feel like I'm already giving a lot. And so, yeah, I need that respect of you know, I need a little bit of respect in having that privacy.
I think that that's awesome. Yeah, I think that that's awesome. And setting those boundaries, I think, is really important. And like you said, I mean, for folks who don't already follow Arlene, please give her a follow and check out her work. But you are, yeah, you are super. I mean, I feel like you're super open in your stories already. So having that boundary, I think is important. So good for you. Um, to end kind of like on a funny note, one of the questions that we do like to ask the artists is what is, and I think that maybe you already kind of talked a little bit about this, but like what is one of your, or yeah, what is one of your artist pet peeves?
Ooh. Artist pet peeve. Sorry, I'm just plugging in real quick.
Or if you don't have an artist pet peeve or don't want to talk about it because of boundaries, what's a funny art moment? I also feel like you kind of gave us one at the beginning of the conversation with the person at Whole Foods. I mean,
Oh, oh, yes. See, I knew
I'm
it.
just
I was
kidding.
like, I can tell
I'm
you
just
too many
kidding.
details. Oh my goodness.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Rayleigh.
No, but you were so right. That is so accurate. I love that you got it. I get pet peeves. Well, let me think. Huh. I was trying to think of this, you know. But I think it's just that I really hate the entitlement that some artists have. You know, I hate the competition. Really hate the competition. Especially, and like this is the chisme, especially when it comes to other okay, I got it. Just say. So when it comes to other Latinx folks that make art, and especially males that make art that feel like they have to talk down on women,
Mm,
Latinx women, or be better than, right? And I really don't like that. And I have come across that before where people have said to me like, oh, you only get attention because of your body and because you have tattoos. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that takes away from all of my hard work. And you cannot disregard my work because I might be semi good looking and that's not my fault. You know, like, not to toot my own horn, but it's like it's just really annoying because I work really hard and I much rather, I swear on my father's life, I much rather have my Instagram be full of my artwork. But the reality is that people don't respond to that a lot of the times. And people are very interested in my tattoos. They're interested in what I'm doing with my body, with reconstruction. And I want to talk about those things because they influence my work, right? But it does feel really degrading when someone's in my DMs saying, you know, you only have followers and people only care about your work because of your sexuality and because, you know, you're posting these nudes. And it's like, one, they're not nudes. I'm not on OnlyFans or whatever, you know. I'm posting, my posts are very intentional. If any of you have ever taken the time to read them, I spend a lot of time writing what my captions because I want to share, you know, something that's valuable in this whole world of Instagram where we just swipe. I don't want to be something like that, right? I want to give you um I want to give you a moment of reflection maybe that you can tap into that relates to my work. And so, you know, I did the series of 9 pictures where my cousin actually photographed me and we did this beautiful series of photographs where I was open and vulnerable about my double mastectomy, and I was feeling like I was embracing it and healing through it, right? And so to have someone say that I'm sexualizing myself to get attention in the art world is just extremely degrading, and it goes to show that that competition, even within Latinidad or Latinx folks, it still exists. And I'm not
Yeah.
here for that. You know, I'm not here for that at all, because I'm just, if I really cared to be, you know, an Instagram hottie, then I would post more selfies, and I just don't care for that. I have something to say in artwork, and that's what I hope that all of you and everyone watching take away. You know, that's my main focus.
Yes. Yes. Use that block button, girl. Bye. You know? And
See, but who has time for that? Do you know how many residencies I'm applying to? It's like I mean, you both know it's like website updates, sending emails, teaching classes, doing this. I don't have time to block anyone. If you want to show your mom and abuelita my chest, then go for it. They can talk all the smack they want. I'm not here to, like, you know, defend myself, because again, it's like everyone in my life who knows me, and even my family members, they've had a rough time with me. Like, my mom would be like, "Estás encuerada en esa foto. How are you gonna post that?" And I'm like, "Mom, but you know, this reaches people." And I was really lucky that I met Monica, who is a mutual friend, and she really supported me through going through this like double mastectomy, you know. And I can't imagine my life without her. And by me sharing all of my work, I've reached people who are going through the same thing, and maybe I can be what Monica was to me, you know, to them. And so it's worth it. It's worth it to share, and to have those images exist. So I would never back down from that.
definitely. And even if you want to share your sexuality, like, men have been sharing their sexuality for since the beginning of time, and they don't get scrutinized. So, girl, whether it's artistic or not, do you, you know? And I think that también, you know, one thing that you did mention was that, like, by, you know, folks saying these misogynistic things, that completely erases all of your hard work, right? And I think that,
Right.
and I talk about this a lot just because I feel like it's so important, is that there's also this, like, this concept, or this perception that artists are like natural born talents, and that, like, we're born with this natural gift, and that also, I think, erases, like, all of the hard work. That, yes, oftentimes
Right.
there's natural talent, right? Oftentimes it's organic, but that doesn't mean that in order for me to be able to paint, or to be able to sew, or to be able to do whatever it is that I do, that I didn't work hard for it, right? Like, that I
Exactly.
woke up one morning, there was a magic wand, and poof, I'm this artist, right? That's not how it happened. Like,
No,
it is
I wish.
work, right? It is
Yeah.
work. It is work. And I think that's also one of the things that's associated with this label as an artist, right? That it's like, no, it's work. We work hard.
Oh
So
my gosh, can you tell that to my dad? And this is crazy. You know, I think in one of your questions that you sent me, you were asking how supportive family is. But it's okay. So my dad is a painter, and he loves art. And to this day, he'll be like, "¿Y qué estás haciendo?" He's like, "What did you do today?" And I'm like, "Dad, I'm working." And he's like, "But you don't have a job where you, like, you know, clock in and clock out." I'm like, "No, Dad, but I go to bed answering emails, and I wake up answering emails, and I'm like constantly thinking about my work. I literally spend 8 to 10 hours a day in the studio Monday through Friday. And that is because I have great support, you know, and I can do that. But it's also because I'm working hard, and my work is getting paid for, and whatnot. But like, to tell, you know, Mexican parents, like, okay, I'm working, and they're like, no, because I don't see, you know, like a punch card or whatever. It's crazy. I hate, that's another one of my pet peeves. Oh my gosh, I can't stand that. But then when the checks come in, they're not complaining.
yeah. Well, girl,
Look at this Emmy.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
hook me up with the people sending the checks.
Yeah, we got to find more of those. I'm running out.
No, but thank you so much, Arlene. Thank you so much for being with us today, everyone. Give Arlene a follow. This is going to be posted on our grid, and then we'll also share this to our YouTube page so folks can check out the video in case you missed the beginning or any portion of it. You can always go back and reference Arlene's badassness. So thank you so much. Arlene, for being here. Thank you to everyone who joined us. And on that note, buenas noches.
Good night. Thank you so
Bye.
much for having me. Mwah. Love you both.
Absolutely.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Bye.
Bye.